living from the land with the animals, following the direction of the stars, surrounded by water, surviving by water, thriving by water. The Oceanic region contains many different sets of culture, all of these being islands, both big and small. Although these islanders had different environments that they were living in, the issues that they dealt with had many similarities. For the same reasons, the things that held value to these people were very common as well. Use of the water was essential for tasks, both daily and long-term. It was used for fishing, trade, and other travel. Astrology held multiple roles in the people's lives as well. The stars were used for navigation, as well as being used as a way of telling time when it came to rituals and other important tasks. Working in communion with the animals and having mutual respect was a frequent value of the people. These three themes are not only present, but bolded aspects in the myths and beliefs of the Oceanic people. The importance of water, astrology, and animals in the culture and everyday life is reinforced through its relevance in the myth. Because islanders are surrounded by water on four sides, and many of the islands did not have everything that these people needed, it was common that they must leave the island to get these resources. They did this mainly to hunt and trade. Trade was an immense reason why these different cultures were able to develop into advanced civilizations and not remain in the Stone Age. Because of the trade capabilities made possible by water travel, they were able to share new technology and materials that were previously unavailable. The water provided so much for the people. This is the reason why it was held with such high regard in the myths. There exist many creation stories of the Oceanic people, but I will only be focusing on a few of them, as well as a couple of other folk tales. The first is the world being created by Ta-Aroa. Ta-Aroa is the creator god. In the beginning, there was nothing. That is until Ta-Aroa came around inside of an egg. He split open the egg and called out to see if anyone would respond. After realizing he was alone, he decided to create the world. The first part of the shell was used to make all the stars in the sky. The other half was used for the foundation of the earth. He used himself to make the clouds and soil, and used his own tears as the source of all water. Finally, his feathers became vegetation, and his guts became the sea creatures. The first important piece of this myth follows the idea of the importance of water. In this story, all the water in the world came from the tears of Ta-Aroa. The two main sources of tears are tears of sadness and grief and tears of joy. Either way, they come at times of extreme emotion. The myth, created by the people, connects these to emphasize the value that water holds to them. In another creation myth, there existed only the sea and the sky in the beginning. It proceeds to explain how everything that exists in the world now has come from the marriage of the sea and the sky. Every creation myth of the Oceanic people contains a part about water, and almost always how it is one of the essential elements of life, if not the most important part. Another piece relevant in many of the myths is the sky. The sky is something that can be seen both day and night at almost all times. The facet of the sky that has the strongest connection to the culture is the stars. When traveling by sea, there are few landmarks besides the islands themselves that could be used to navigate towards a destination. Since trade was extremely important to these people, and many journeys demanded both day and night travel, they relied on the stars. They learned the stars and used them when traveling at night, since they were always reliable. The other ways that stars were used was as a measure of timing. Similarly to many other cultures, events were based on the position of the stars. One example of this is the Agarat tribe, in a quote from an article on the Northern Illinois University website. The stars were consulted for auspicious times. Among certain Agarat tribes, certain stars would have to come in line with the moon before important events like hunting expeditions, battles, sacrifices, etc. The Ta-Aroa took in the creation of the world was pushing half the shell, which is where he grew up for his entire life, to form all the stars in the sky. The shell was all that he knew, and his willingness to give that up relates the gravity this held to him to the reliance that the people have on him as well. Switching from creation myths to a folk tale, we have the stories of Alulue. Alulue was a navigation god who was killed by his brothers. His father brought him back to life as a spirit with many eyes. These eyes of his were thought to be all the stars in the sky. There are other stories that surround Alulue, including his family, and the good that they have brought to the people as well. These are simply two of the many stories that attribute the stars to be a blessing of sorts to the people from the gods. The third and final connection of the culture and myth of the Oceanic region is through animals. Although many of these societies had the belief of animism, or the idea that all objects had spirits, animals were even a step closer to humans. One of the places that their respect for animals was seen was through its representation in the arts. Different forms of pottery and woodmakings were a large part of what was traded amongst civilizations. Whether it was a pot, ornament, shield, or another variation, the carving or shaping of an animal on the item was common. This is a sculpture of what has been named the man-bird. The name is very fitting as what it displays is a combination of qualities of both man and bird. It contains wings, a human face, and human arms. Following the presentation of birds, another popular creation story attributes the bringing about of humans to a bird. Beginning with the two themes already presented, a bird becomes tired of flying and stirs the sea until the sky drops islands for the bird to rest. One day, a piece of bamboo, which was the child of the sea and the breeze, bumped into the bird. When the bird pecked it back, both man and woman came from it. This story gives the credit of the beginning of all human life to the actions of a single bird. Through this myth, it can explain why the people should honor the animals and the roles that they hold in the environment. Referring back to the creation by Ta'aroa, it is written that all sea life comes from its guts. This states the idea that the tiny shrimp that live at the bottom of the ocean are made from the same being that has given the people all that they have now. This stresses the importance of coexisting with all beings and not taking advantage of what they have access to. The characteristics that are shared in almost every myth of these people are the very same things that held the most value in the oceanic people's lives every day. Although the purpose of these myths may vary between giving explanations to why things are the way they are to teaching lessons, it was essential to implement these common themes. By connecting your beliefs to what you feel should be held with the utmost importance, it preserves the appreciation of the virtues for generations to come.